We'll bring in 97.3 ESPN.com. Phillies Insider Frank Klose. He joins us every Tuesday with the mailbag. And Frank, last night, didn't a lot of times in baseball, we don't know a lot about these draft picks. So tell us a little bit about the Phillies' first-round selection here and the timeline. Maybe we have to wait. He is a college player, so it's not like they went the high school route.
Yeah, I think the Phillies did that intentionally. They've invested a lot of their draft picks in recent years on high school players that might take a little while to get into the major leagues. So I think they wanted to balance it out a little bit by taking some college picks this year so that, if one of them doesn't work out along the way, there'll be other people sort of around the same time or could rise through the system a little bit faster. So I think that was a definite consideration here by the Phillies.
Yeah, and obviously they take an outfielder there, and you look at their system. I mean, and what was around them. I know, not saying that you're a draft expert or anything, but when you look at what was around there, did a college outfielder make sense?
I think so. Yesterday on 97.3 ESPN.com, I sort of put together what was kind of the consensus top 10 picks kind of around from experts around the league. And the Phillies sort of ended up where they kind of expected to be. Now, Pete, I think I just heard you mention that they might have been interested in Pavin Smith, who's actually a teammate of Adam Hazley's. But I think they did pretty well. I think they wanted to have a bat that was a little bit further along, since they've drafted Mickey Moniak last year out of high school and Cornelius Randolph out of high school. So I think they wanted another advanced bat, and which is why they took Scott Kingery right after Cornelius Randolph a couple of years ago too. So I think they did pretty well. And the thing about these drafts, after the first few picks, and even they don't always work the way you want. Individual teams, they'll pick what they feel is best match for their system, and sometimes it's surprising. Everybody thought Brandon McKay was going to go first overall this year, and he ended up going fourth. So really, when you're picking after somebody else, you kind of have to rank your guys and grab who you can when you can. So whether or not they wanted Pavin Smith more than Hazley, nobody really knows because they won't say it. But I think they're very happy with their pick.
Frank, close with us. I did find it pretty interesting, Frank. I saw the note where Hazley and Pavin Smith, the first position players from the same college to go in the top 10 since Oklahoma State's Monty Ferris and Robin Ventura. I guess we hope that Hazley's more like a Ventura and less like a Ferris.
Well, I think they got him to be a very well-rounded outfielder. He makes a lot of contact. His power hasn't been that great just yet, but that's one of those things that can kind of project ahead to see where it's going in their development, and they seem to think that some power is going to come around. So he's probably going to be a corner outfielder type who can get on base a lot, hopefully in an ideal world. Again, this is many years away often until we actually get to see these things come to fruition. But I think that's what they're hoping for, that it'll be a high on base, high batting average, slick fielding outfielder.
Frank Klose with us. And in the second round, they went with a college pitcher that they think can get through the system pretty fast, Spencer Howard. And they think that this might have been the best pitcher in the draft.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised that Johnny Alvarez, the scouting director for the Phillies system, he called him the best right-hander in the draft. And when you consider that Hunter Green went second overall, that's a pretty bold statement to say that your second-round pick is a better right-handed pitcher than the one that was drafted second overall. Now, granted, Green is also kind of an offensive player too, and you don't really know how he's going to work out. But that's a really bold statement that the Phillies made. So my guess is they wanted Hazley more, but they were high-fiving each other when they came to their second pick and they were able to get Howard.
All right, let's dive a little deeper into the mailbag. Steven wants to know, all right, do you think Nick Williams is ready? We've seen enough of this Michael Saunders. Can we get somebody else out there?
Yeah, Nick Williams has had a very, very, very good month, 5 weeks, kind of consistently. And I think the answer to that question is a matter of consistency. Now, I think that Williams probably, for me personally, this is me personally speaking, not the Phillies, I would like to see him give it another good month, which kind of takes you to around the trade deadline anyway. And if he's kind of keeping that consistency he has down there for a little bit more of an extended period of time than just this last 5 weeks or so, I think it would be wise to bring him up. And you mentioned Michael Saunders. I think we can forget about Michael Saunders as a starting player in the Phillies already. I think that was pretty evident when Howie Kendrick was moved to second base in the absence of Cesar Hernandez. The Phillies still chose to start Daniel Nava, and I think we're going to see a lot of Daniel Nava in the near future. So I think there is a spot open for him, and it's not a matter of Saunders keeping him down. It's just I think that they want to have a little bit more consistency over a little bit longer period of time, and that probably, no coincidence, will be around when the trade deadline happens, and they expect to open up some space on their roster one way or another. In fact, the aforementioned Kendrick and Nava might be players that the Phillies move, and certainly it's a lot easier to bring them up when you've seen a consistent body of work over an extended period of time, and you have space to put them. So I think it'll just so happen that those two things hopefully will work out right around the same time.
We'll get to Howie Kendrick in a moment, but Frank, would you rather see Scott Kingery get a shot at second base?
Not yet. I think they should wait a little while longer. In fact, you might not even see him this year. A lot depends on how much space they open on their roster. He was only drafted in 2015, so you're talking 2 calendar years, and he's kind of moved up pretty fast, even along that way, and maybe a little bit more experience before you bring him to the major leagues, but I don't think he's that far. If they come to September and they have the roster spot, you might see him for a little bit. Maybe things change if for some reason Cesar Hernandez is out long term. I don't think they want to bring him up here now while Hernandez is recovering and it's only a few weeks. But then maybe if there's a longer-term situation where Kendrick is traded and Hernandez isn't responding the way they hope, only then might they consider such a move. But I think they still want to get him a little bit more experience, see the pitching at Double-A a few times through, rather than just one at bat against each team, and then give him a shot at Triple-A to face some of those former major league pitchers that are kind of those quadruple A, as frequently called, that can get some guys out at Triple-A level that aren't quite in the major leagues. But I think that question will come up later in the season, and only if there's probably a wide gap where they could bring him up.
Hey, Frank, real quick, your take on Franco, man. He's struggling big time. I know they said they didn't want to send him back, and I don't even know that I'm a proponent. I don't want to see him turn into Don Brown getting yo-yoed back and forth here, but I don't know. I might have to change my stance on that. He really looks lost.
Well, my stance changed a little bit this week when Cesar Hernandez went down. It's a lot harder to send him to the minor leagues right now just because they don't have that many available infielders, and chances are he's still going to hit better than Ty Kelly could hit if Ty Kelly was your starting third baseman. So, but I agree. I think his head is just kind of out of the game, and I would like personally to see him go to AAA and really just get a breather and just help find himself a little bit better. But I don't know if it's going to happen now that Hernandez is out for a little bit. I think they played him as the DH yesterday just to try to get him more comfortable, sort of make it a half day off, where he just had to worry about batting. And, Andres Blanco and Ty Kelly shared third base during yesterday's game. Maybe they do it again. I haven't seen a lineup for tonight yet, but I think they're trying to give him that mental break without sending him down. But I think he's more talented than Don Brown ever was. So
he did have a couple hits last night, by the way. He was 2 for 4 with a double last night. But he just seemed like he had 2 strikeouts the night before, 2 strikeouts the night before that. He had a couple 0 for 4. He just kind of he's looked lost a lot, and he's hitting 214. It's been a struggle for him this year, and they really thought this was the year for him to break out, right?
Yeah, this was an important year. I think they were even thinking beyond that, thinking that he could be a definite part of the middle of the lineup going into this year. And the fact that he hasn't been that has really contributed a lot to the Phillies' struggles. So I think they do want him to get right, but I think, like we saw last night, him being the designated hitter is going to be the way that they do that.
Frank Klose is with us. Phillies mailbag is open. And, Frank, in addition to watching the NBA Finals last night, I happened to click over at the time where Howie Kendrick unfortunately threw the ball up into the first row of the stands. Tony wants to know, he has a nice bat, Howie Kendrick, but can he handle second base?
In a word, I think yes. And I think that it's only because it's for a few reasons, actually. First, it's not meant to be a long-term solution. Now, Howie Kendrick played second base every day for many, many, many years with the Angels and then the Dodgers, and he hasn't done it in a while. So I think there's a sort of reacclimation to the position that he's kind of going through right now. I think every time the ball was hit to him, you sort of like hold your breath and see what's going to happen. But I think he's making some routine plays. If he makes the routine plays most of the time for now as he gets more comfortable, I think that's totally fine. When you consider the other options that you have there, I mean, you could start Andres Blanco or Ty Kelly. I mean, really, that's all you have to work with at the time being. So I would rather see him get acclimated to second base. And when you think about it long term, yes, he's absolutely hitting, but if they're going to trade him at the trade deadline, what's more appealing to another team? Somebody who can play second base and the outfield, or just a straight outfielder? Or, who wants to acquire Kendrick but realizes he needs a period to get readjusted to second base? Well, that's already going to be out of the way. So I think this is good for the Phillies to use him at second base, recognizing that, there's going to be some ball. Like, I remember one ball hit up the middle that he made a nice play on. He just couldn't spin and throw it to first, right? That's a play he hasn't made lately. That's something that really makes you appreciate the likes of Cesar Hernandez. But he's going to miss that play, perhaps. Cesar would have done it, but I think it's okay for now, because when you look at the greater picture, I think it will benefit the Phillies in the long run to say, hey, contending team, I have a second baseman I can trade you, or you can say I have an outfielder to trade you, or you can say, hey, listen, I've got a guy that can help you at two positions.
Right, yeah, the versatility makes him maybe a more attractive trade chip. If that is something that another team desires, a hot bat. Kendrick has swung a good bat in a pretty bad lineup. Frank Klose at 973ESPN.com for the mailbag. And, of course, you can send them your mailbag questions every week at Frank Klose with a K over on our website. We'll answer each question for you right here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. All right, Frank, Phillies in Boston tonight trying to
snap
pick up
a
another
six-game losing streak is what they're trying to do, Maikel.
Take care, pal.
You too, guys.